Avatar The Last Airbender is a masterpiece that is yet to be surpassed in quality and in depth. Avatar has some of the best written characters I have ever seen, and one of the most well-rounded stories I have ever seen. Even the sequel known as The Legend of Korra is an amazing series that a lot of people hate on. Avatar has consistently showed its depth of character throughout its run. Zuko is the best written character ever. His life was so messed up with the abuse from his father, his mother not being there for him most of the time, and his sister outshining him in every way. Zuko even ended up getting permanently scarred both physically and mentally by his father and sister. His father burned his right eye after he spoke out of turn at a war meeting, and his sister kept on being very manipulative and using him for her own benefit, and after his burn he ended up losing everything by being banished. But in the end he had someone there to guide him onto the right path, and that was his uncle Iroh, who also had a very tragic past. He lost his son in the war that was raging, but Iroh learned from his son's death and became a good person, and he ended up treating Zuko like his own son, which is exactly what Zuko needed. Aang is someone who is shown to be very strong, but also has a very sad and deep past that he eventually has to confront. Aang ran away from home after the monks told him he was the Avatar, and they were going to send him away from his father figure, Monk Gyatso. Aang never wanted to be the Avatar, but he eventually takes up the role when he is needed, after Aang ended up being frozen in an iceberg, and after he wakes up he learns that he was asleep for 100 years, and that during that time the Fire Nation destroyed his home and massacred his people. After Aang learned this, he was devastated, but he ended up grieving and finally let them go, and he became a stronger person for that. Katara and Sokka are both strong characters in the fact that they were forced to mature because they had to help lead the village while their father was gone fighting in the war, and because their mother was murdered by the Fire Nation. Sokka had to help teach the little kids how to fight because he was the only one that could, being that he was the oldest male in the village, and Katara had to step up and help people around the village with chores and other things, while also holding on to the fact that she was the last waterbender of the southern tribe, and that her mother is now gone. But after Katara and Sokka meet Aang, everything in their lives start to turn around. They go on a journey to help save the world by helping Aang master all the elements, and they both end up fighting through their mental struggles. Katara literally hunts down the man that killed her mother and ends up realizing just how weak and pathetic she would be if she killed him, and Sokka ends up telling Toph the truth about their past and ends up revealing that he doesn't even remember what his mother looks like anymore. All he sees when he tries to remember her is Katara's face. Sokka also fought to get over the fact that the one he loved is dying and turning into the moon spirit. Sokka and Katara are very well written characters as they still go through a lot of struggles even on their journey to save the world. The last character that I feel I need to talk about is Azula. She is one of the main antagonists of the series, but her past is arguably just as tragic as her brother's, because although she was the favorite child, she had a lot of expectations sprung upon her at a young age, and when your father is a monster like Ozai, it changes you, and she ended up being very manipulative, and she never really had a childhood because she was always trying to please her father and not turn out to be a failure. But by the end of the series, she realizes that she was being used by her father all her life for his own selfish gain. She was terrified of him, and so she never defied him. But before she became Fire Lord, she started to lose her mind. After she was just thrown away by her father, she ends up hallucinating about her mother and the fact that she thought she was a monster. But in the final Agni Kai, Zuko and Azula face off, but she is different. Usually her attacks are precise and calculated, but now they're just big fire blasts designed to kill and destroy everything. But after Katara defeats Azula, she starts crying, not because she lost, but because she realizes that her life was just wasted being stuck in her father's shadow, and those tears honestly made me feel for Azula a lot because she was just discarded like she was nothing, and that was very tragic. Avatar's story is a great story about kids who are traveling the world discovering things about themselves and other people while also trying to save the world from the threat that is the Fire Nation. Early Book 3 is amazing because it explores what the people of the Fire Nation are like when they're not in the military, fighting, and it shows us that not everyone in the Fire Nation is evil, and that some people in the Fire Nation have it just as bad as people in the Earth Kingdom, and we even learn that not only the Fire Nation is full of bad people, but as we meet Hama, an old woman who was raised in the Southern Water Tribe and was also a waterbender, we learned that she invented this technique called bloodbending, and that she was using it to take innocent people away just because they were Fire Nation citizens. But as we had previously learned, the citizens of the Fire Nation are innocent and don't really know that the outside world hates them. Avatar is a tragic story of kids who are forced into traveling the world and saving the world, as they go through a lot of hardships throughout the course of their journey, but all of those hardships end up making everyone in the group a lot stronger. In the end, of course, they all faced their past and learned from them, and that is why Avatar The Last Airbender is a masterpiece, because although it's a kid's show, it is very mature and is not afraid to show how war affects the world and its people.